The sky above Karsus, 9 pulse in shades of violet and burnt orange, a byproduct of the ionized atmosphere reacting to the Union fleet's bombardment. Columns of alien soldiers march in unison, their exosuits gleaming under the twin suns, weapons humming with synthetic menace. The siege had begun 3 rotations ago, and the Galactic Union's high command remained confident in their swift victory. After all, the enemy was human. Commander Rawlek of the Zurich species stood on an elevated ridge, mandibles twitching as he observed the battlefield through his ocular visor. His voice clicked over the comms. Reinforcements are arriving from the Earth remnants. Finally, the word Earth dripped with disdain, like it was an infection that refused to die off completely. Behind him, a squad of Krell soldiers, 6-limbed, cold-eyed, precision killers, lay out a guttural series of chirps that translated to laughter. "Let's hope they bring something more than meat and bullets this time," one hissed. Their expectations collapsed the moment the drop pod cracked open. No hulking war machine emerged. No squad of elite Terra Marines stormed out. Instead, a single man stepped onto the dust-scoured ground. He wore matte black fatigues and a long, torn cloak draped over his shoulders. His armor looked outdated, scratched, scorched, unadorned. Slung across his back was an impossibly long rifle, its barrel weathered and chipped. Analog. Bolt action. He didn't salute, didn't speak. Rawlek blinked. "Where's the rest of your unit, human?" The man paused. "You're looking at it." A long silence followed, broken only by the faint whine of plasma tanks being recharged. "Name?" Rawlek asked sharply. "Sergeant Darius Creed. Earth Defense Command. Spectral Marksman Division." Rawlek squinted. Spectral Marksman, that initiative was dissolved 2 centuries ago. Creed gave no answer. His face was unreadable beneath the shadows of his hood. His eyes, however, held an unsettling stillness, as if they'd already measured the distance from every ridge and outcropping within view. Tin Core, the Krell sniper, stepped forward with a hiss of amusement. "You expect to contribute to this war with that relic?" He gestured mockingly to Creed's rifle. "Kinetic weapons are museum pieces. They lack precision, no adaptive tracking, no heat-seeking protocols. What can you possibly hit with that?" Creed's gaze locked on Tin Core with such calm finality it silenced the Krell's laughter. "Anything I can see," he replied. The briefing tent buzzed with tension as the command unit reviewed the latest battlefield scans. Union forces were massing on the northern plateau, preparing for a decisive push. Plasma artillery had reduced several human outposts to smoldering husks. The next strike would crush the last offensive line. Rawlek addressed the officers, his claws tapping the holodable. "This sector will fall within the next solar cycle, unless we neutralize their forward battery. Our plasma snipers cannot maintain lock due to atmospheric diffraction. Targeting optics are unreliable." "Let me try," Creed said from the corner, voice low. Rawlek narrowed his eyes. "Your gear is blind in this interference. What exactly do you think you'll accomplish, Sergeant?" "I don't need optics. I just need line of sight." Tin Core scoffed. "This is folly. He's romanticizing war like humans always do. Let the professionals handle this." Creed stood slowly. "Then why are the professionals losing?" The tent fell silent. Rawlek exhaled, a slow rattle from his secondary lungs. "Fine. Take a position. But when you fail, I'll expect no further commentary." Darius Creed left without another word. Hours passed. The battle roared on. The sky bled fire. Union squads advanced across the valley, confident in the chaos. Alien scouts spotted no movement, no sniper glints, no sensor pings. Then just past dusk, everything changed. A Krell field general, known for brutal efficiency, was mid-speech when his upper thorax exploded in a fine mist. No sound preceded it. No light. One moment he stood barking orders. The next, half of him was gone. Union comms lit up in panic. Scouts scrambled. Search drones soared over ridges and valleys. They found nothing. No heat signatures. No plasma residue. Just a single, smooth crater bored through the general's command node. The kill was clean. Impossible. Rawlek watched the footage 10 times. Where's the angle of origin? Unknown, muttered the comms analyst. There's no projectile trail, no energy signature. We believe it was analog. Tincor clenched his lower mandibles. He got lucky. 2 hours later, another officer fell. Then another. Each shot was precise, silent, and untraceable. Creed never returned to base. His only communication was a short data ping. Targets neutralized. Union morale shifted from overconfidence to uncertainty. Alien officers stopped laughing. Krell snipers began recalibrating their optics hourly. Paranoia bloomed like mold. Ralex summoned Tincor. Find him. He's not hiding from me. Tincor said, he's baiting me. Ralex leaned forward. Then spring the trap. By the next morning, reports filtered in. Several Krell scouts had gone missing. Their visors recorded nothing. Just static. One final shot showed a silhouette against the horizon. Long cloak fluttering, rifle at rest. Darius Creed had become a ghost. A shadow with a scope. The battlefield was a cathedral, and he moved through it unseen. The Galactic Union had laughed at the last human sniper. They weren't laughing now. The wind screamed across the canyon floor, dragging sheets of grit over rusted wreckage and shattered hulls. The battlefield had grown quieter, not from peace, but from tension. Galactic Union soldiers no longer marched boldly. They crept, eyes scanning every ridge, every window, every flicker of shadow. A name whispered across encrypted comms, passed like a superstition. Creed. Darius lay prone atop a ruined comms tower, camouflaged in ash and dust. His rifle, simple, bolt-action, and lethal, rested silently on his bipod. He breathed in rhythm with the wind. No HUD, no drones, no targeting assistance. Just raw instinct, sharpened over decades of cryo-sleep and war. He adjusted the scope manually, twitching to compensate for the distortion caused by Karsus 9's swirling thermals. Below, a convoy of Union elites maneuvered through the valley with armor precision. They moved in irregular patterns, avoiding sniper lines, deploying anti-stealth drones and distortion fields. Still, Creed waited. His finger hovered over the trigger. Wind, 27 knots, cross. Distance, 1,783 meters. Time to target, 6 seconds. He didn't exhale. He didn't blink. He fired. A half-second later, the Union colonel's helmet detonated in a burst of metal and pink mist. The convoy broke formation. Soldiers dropped into cover, screaming. Scanners flooded the valley with blue pulses, trying to trace the origin, but the bullet had come from no weapon they recognized. No heat, no energy, just death. Creed was already gone. An hour later, inside the fortified Union command ship orbiting above, Admiral Velsharn stared at the footage. He rewound it in slow increments, pausing frame by frame. That shot was taken through a sandstorm, at range, with no digital correction. The analyst beside him nodded slowly, and it penetrated 4 layers of Krell plate armor before rupturing the command node. Kinetic velocity suggests an old Earth-based tungsten slug, .50 caliber. Velsharn leaned forward. How many humans can make a shot like that? Maybe 5. All believed dead, except one. Creed. The name hung in the air like smoke. Velsharn turned toward the projection table. Find him. Now! Back on the surface, Creed moved through the ruins like a phantom, his rifle broken down and stored in separate pouches across his armor. Every movement was methodical. He traversed old sewer lines, dead transit tunnels, collapsed bunkers. No path was repeated, no footprint left behind. He slept in 20-minute shifts, eyes always half open, rifle always within reach. The spectral marksman had been trained to outlast the mind, to think when AI failed, to remain conscious in environments that kill machines. They were Earth's final answer to asymmetrical warfare. And Darius Creed was the last of them. As Union command scrambled, stories began to trickle down through the ranks. One drone caught Creed perched inside a collapsed satellite array. He had used the broken solar panels to create a lens effect, letting him see through fog and heat shimmer. Another story claimed he shot through a hurricane's eye and killed a pilot mid-flight. The alien troops who had once mocked his weapon now wore extra armor. They spoke softly. They stayed in groups. Fear did what propaganda could not. It made the Union careful. 10 Corps, the Krell sniper once full of derision, now sat silently in a shadowed sniper roost, reviewing hours of battlefield telemetry. He rewound the footage of Creed's kill on the colonel, dissecting it frame by frame. His claws tapped the stone beside him, rhythmic and calculating. He admired the kill. Quietly, hatefully. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't luck. It was art. Below him, an entire squad was preparing to bait Creed into revealing himself. They moved through the ruins with noisy footfalls, false security chatter, and deliberately exposed officers. Tincor watched carefully, scanning every ledge, every angle. He never saw it coming. The squad leader fell first, hit clean to the backplate, centered on the spine. Before the second could call for cover, his visor shattered from an impossible angle. A third ran for the APC, only to crumple mid-step, the bullet entering beneath the arm and exiting through the jaw. Tincor froze. Then his eyes widened. Creed had predicted the bait, accounted for counter-sniper observation, and timed his shots to mislead. The real position had been 40 degrees offset and several stories higher than expected. The lesson wasn't just in the bullet. It was in the silence between them. Later that night, a message reached Union High Command. It wasn't encoded. It was a basic transmission, analog and slow. 5 words. Stop sending children to die. Velsharn listened to it on loop. He's mocking us. No, said the analyst. He's warning us. The war had changed. Creed wasn't killing at random. He was selecting targets that dismantled the Union structure, officers, engineers, comms experts. Each death caused more confusion than the last. Infrastructure buckled. Orders failed to reach their recipients. Morale decayed. He was breaking the machine. But for every legend, there is a countermeasure. Velsharn issued a new directive. Initiate Project Eclipse. No more tracking. No more traps. They would prepare the Solar Lance, a planet-cracking weapon capable of incinerating entire continents. Its targeting relay required line of sight, uplink through a single orbital satellite. They didn't need to find Creed. They needed to burn the world he was hiding on, but they underestimated him again. Creed had already intercepted the plan, and he was loading the bullet. The sun over Karsus, 9 burned low, casting elongated shadows over a planet, choking on ash and static. Silence, broken only by the hum of distant orbital engines, gripped the battlefield. But above it all, miles beyond the atmosphere, the real weapon spun slowly into position, a sleek, black satellite laced with concentric rings of glowing red crystal. The Solar Lance. It was not built for battles, but for extinction. Once charged, it would beam concentrated solar energy through a lens array in orbit, disintegrating anything in its path. Velsharn, commander of Union forces, stood inside the bridge of the orbital dreadnought Providence, watching the weapons count down with cold anticipation. This is what ends the resistance, he said to no one in particular. No more ghosts in the ruins. No more sniper. No more Earth. The targeting array depended on one thing, a precise relay uplink with a geosynchronous satellite. A single connection, brief and exposed. Too brief. The engineers argued for any interference. But interference had a name. Darius Creed stood atop a rusted water tower, 3 clicks east of the uplink dish. He had scouted the location for 2 days, studying its pattern, movement, and rotation cycles. The satellite passed overhead once every 83 minutes, presenting a narrow 4-second window when the beam alignment was exposed and vulnerable. No AI could time it perfectly. No drone could stabilize during the wind shear. No Union soldier could even see the shot. Creed wasn't interested in any of that. He began assembling his rifle by hand, piece by piece. Each component cleaned, oiled, and tested. The tungsten round he loaded had no markings, just weight, balance, and purpose. He lay prone, breathing evenly. Dust coated his armor like a second skin. From a distance, he could have passed for debris. He adjusted his scope, Manual, analog, and unflinching. He didn't look at the satellite. He looked at where it would be. He whispered to himself, wind, 9 east, elevation drop, 3 meters, target arc, 8 degrees offset, fire on third tick. He did not pray. He did not hope. He waited. The satellite crept into alignment, a dark streak across the sky. In the Union command ship, countdown protocols accelerated. Solar lance ready in T-minus 4 minutes. A tech officer confirmed uplink stability. All systems go. Velsharn announced, claws clasped behind his back. Fire as soon as alignment completes. Darius watched the target window approach. His hand never trembled. A lifetime of war had trained out the hesitation. The crosshairs settled. The uplink eye, the size of a dinner plate, flickered to life. Creed fired. The shot rang out across nothingness. A whisper of force, a ripple through the still air. The round screamed upward, carving through the atmosphere. In orbit, the lens cracked. The beam misfired. Instead of targeting the surface, the solar lance discharged prematurely, lancing across the stars, searing to the hull of the Union cruiser, then arcing into the void. On the Providence, alarm shrieked. What happened? Velsharn barked. The engineer's face drained. We've lost uplink. The relay's destroyed. Destroyed by what? A bullet, sir. The war paused, not with surrender, not with speeches, but with a single impossible act. The sniper had shot into orbit and struck the one place that mattered. Darius Creed didn't smile. He simply picked up his casing, tucked it into his chest pouch, and vanished into the ruins. The message was already spreading. Soldiers on both sides heard it. A human had broken the unbreakable. Hours later, Union forces withdrew from 3 forward positions. Officers refused to set foot within open terrain. Commanders began triple verifying their helmets and armor seams. Drones flew higher. Transmission slowed. Fear returned. In the shadow of the disabled satellite, Velsharn sat alone in the command chamber. His once pristine uniform was wrinkled and stained with the sweat of disbelief. One of his generals approached. He's not just disrupting tactics. He's unraveling confidence. They speak of him like a myth. Velsharn's voice dropped to a rasp. What do you suggest? We match him, sniper against sniper. 10 Corps was summoned from the surface. His eyes, once filled with contempt, now held a strange intensity. You want me to end Creed, he said. I want you to outthink him. 10 Corps nodded. Then let me hunt him on my terms. As the war machine slowed, the game between two ghosts prepared to begin. In the distance, Darius Creed opened his last ration pack under the pale light of Karsus 9's moons. His eyes remained sharp, unshaken. He knew they would send someone. He hoped they would, because this wasn't over. Not until the last shot. A gray dawn broke over the shattered cityscape, casting pale light over the bones of towers and the silence of ruin. Smoke curled lazily from craters long cooled, and broken steel groaned in the wind like the last breath of a dying planet. The world of Karsus 9 was not just a battlefield now. It was a graveyard of machines, soldiers, and ideals. Amidst that silence, 2 hunters moved. Neither spoke. Both knew what this was. 10 Corps stepped carefully across fractured concrete, his weapon tight against his shoulder. The Krell sniper's body language radiated lethal intent. Every step calculated, every limb coiled like a living spring. His species had evolved for ambush. He had killed human operatives before, outmatched many in open terrain, and believed himself beyond fear. But today, he carried it with him, hidden behind optics and bone plating. His quarry wasn't just a soldier. Creed had become something else. Darius Creed watched from a shadowed alcove 2 floors up, the barrel of his rifle motionless, breath even. His cloak blended perfectly with the char and grit of the ruined structure. He didn't aim yet, didn't move. Movement was noise. Thought was better than speed. The distance between living and dying was often less than a second. Below, 10 Corps slowed, the ruins pressing around him. A perfect kill box if he were reckless. But the Krell was anything but. He deployed a thin recon drone, barely the size of a fingertip, and sent it drifting forward. It emitted just enough heat to imitate a body at distance. Perfect bait. Creed didn't fire. The drone floated for 20 meters before it was recalled. Tincor narrowed his eyes. Either the sniper hadn't seen it, or he had seen through it. That alone chilled him. No machine, no soldier, no synthetic eye had ever ignored such bait. He advanced again, moving in bursts. 5 seconds exposed, 10 seconds in cover. He never used the same pattern twice. His boots made no sound. His breathing was low and silent. The beam rifle on his back was charged, humming softly with potential death. Somewhere above, Creed marked every step, calculating arcs, time of travel, and the range of counterangles. He already had a half-dozen possible shots mapped out. Only one would be the right one. And that wasn't yet. The structure across the street sagged under its own decay. Its outer plating was missing, exposing rusted support beams and crumbling stairwells. Creed saw it and made his move silent, fluid. He shifted positions without a sound, crawling across a section of collapsed roof, descending through a utility shaft, and emerging in a ventilation crevice just as Tincor passed beneath him. The Krell paused, senses prickling. He fired a test burst into the open air, vaporizing a corner beam. Nothing. Another drone launched. This one had adaptive sonar and thermal layering. Still nothing. Creed lay still. Stone still. Even his heartbeat had slowed to something less than human. He didn't fight against fear. He operated alongside it. Let it sharpen everything. 10 minutes passed. No one moved. Then came the decoy. Tincor projected a heat signature. High, distant, moving fast across a broken skybridge. It looked just real enough. A bluff against anyone who couldn't resist instinct. Creed resisted. Instead, he traced the angle Tincor would fire from if the target were real. And in that flash of insight, he found the trap. The Krell had exposed himself. Just slightly. Creed's eye narrowed. Wind, 14 kilometers per hour northwest. Distance, 692 meters. Time to impact, 0.8 seconds. He fired. The round struck hard, deflecting slightly on the armor seam near Tincor's left shoulder. Not fatal, but violent. The sniper spun backward into cover, stunned. But Creed was already gone again, relocating like a specter. Tincor's armor registered the impact. The kinetic force cracked the reactive plate and left his dominant arm sluggish. Pain screamed through his nerve endings. He growled low. "You want a duel?" Tincor snarled into his helmet comm, "Then come face me." There was no answer, not even static. Creed didn't play with noise. He spoke with bullets. Furious, the Krell loosed plasma bursts across the skyline, carving molten streaks into concrete and rebar. Each shot vaporized shadows but found nothing. His precision was faltering. He was bleeding now, inside and out. Creed waited, watched. Tincor was breaking formation, betraying rhythm. He was too proud to retreat, too wounded to stay patient. The inevitable was only moments away. And then Creed saw it. A shift in weight. A lean into exposed ground. It was enough. Creed fired again. The second shot punched through Tincor's side, bypassing armor entirely by slipping through a vent port exposed during a turn. The Krell collapsed hard, claws digging into dust. Creed descended slowly, weapon still raised, every step measured. When he reached the fallen sniper, he paused. Tincor's breathing was shallow. His visor cracked, mandibles twitching. Creed knelt beside him. "You weren't wrong," Tincor rasped. "You just weren't supposed to win." Creed looked down, his voice like gravel and rain. "Neither of us were." He removed a casing from his belt pouch and placed it beside the Krell's hand. Then he turned, disappearing once again into the ruins. An hour passed before the first human recon unit entered the city. They found no hostiles, only bodies, some old, some fresh, and a trail of impossibility. By sundown, the official announcement echoed across human channels. Karsus 9 secured. Galactic Union withdrawal confirmed. Mission complete. Later, a monument was erected where the final duel had taken place. A sculpture of a cloaked figure kneeling behind a long-barreled rifle, staring out over the city. At the base, etched in unpolished steel, were just 6 words. One bullet turned the war. Creed. Somewhere beyond transmission range, far from the command centers and parades, a lone figure moved through an abandoned valley. His rifle was wrapped in cloth. His name would never be on medals. But soldiers spoke of him in hushed tones, not as a man, but as a warning, because war would come again. And when it did, they all wondered, would Creed be watching?